Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us this morning out of your busy schedules. Today, we're going to be talking about the future of video marketing, a very hot topic, and I'm very excited to welcome our other panelists today, Mr. Roy Sudeepta, Chief Transformation Officer, Mindshare Asia Pacific, and Mr. Gavin Buxton, Managing Director for Asia, SpotX. Welcome, Gavin and Roy.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. Really excited to be here.
So what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be talking about the ecosystem of video, which is very complex. We want to address the challenges and focus on those challenges, and we want to give you some new rules around video marketing. So let's hop into it. There's no doubt that in 2020, the biggest winner was video. There was a massive surge in audience consumption, and it was it's become a very crucial part for marketing and communication strategy. I'm going to take you through some key stats to get started. 81% of Singaporean internet users have streamed video of some kind in 2020. And from the latest SpotX research, 88% of people have increased their video consumption during weekdays, and a further 85% have increased it during the weekend. So that's pretty huge. Not only that, but there's thousands and thousands of videos being uploaded every day. So 1 million minutes of video content cross the internet every second. And according to Cisco, 82% of all consumer internet traffic will be video by 2022, which is a pretty huge number. So there's no argument that audiences are very receptive to video, but what does this all mean for marketers? Let's hop into it. So there's ever-changing consumer behaviour. You've also got all of these advanced technologies coming to the forefront. So it's actually created this really new media landscape. The lines of TV and digital are being blurred. So it actually resulted in a very complex ecosystem. And what does that mean? You've got video types. It ranges from premium video, user-generated content, short form, long form, original, vertical video, 360, live video, it goes on. Then how that's distributed is also quite diverse. You've got over the air, which is broadcast, cable and satellite TV. And then you've got over the top, IP based. So that's your digital video. And consumers have more choice than ever before in terms of how they view that video. So you've got traditional TV, but then you've got OTT, and there's multiple devices within OTT. You've got desktop, mobile, in-app, mobile web. You've got CTV, which is better known as connected TV, or some call it smart TV. It's the same thing. You've got gaming consoles, social messaging apps, and you've got digital outdoor. And then finally, we have our ad units. You've got in-stream, and in-stream simply means we take your video ad and it gets placed within an existing video stream, whether that be a pre-roll, a mid-roll, an end-roll. You've got your outstream and many choices for outstream, and it simply means we take your video ad and it sits outside of that existing video stream. You've got live stream, and then you've got these really tactical elements that sit on top of video that really drive performance, overlay, L-shapes, corner bugs, and tickers. This has also resulted in quite a fragmented marketplace if we move on. And this is what the marketplace looks like. You've got the big screen, so you've got TV or free-to-air, and very much that's a lean back experience and very effective for getting high reach in a very short period of time. And you've also got cable. You then have premium OTT. And what does OTT mean? OTT simply means that it's video content being delivered over the top of the internet, and that bypasses broadcast, cable, and satellite TV. What do we mean by premium? It means very high quality content that's being provided. That means TV content. It's also original digital content creation as well. All of the content is professionally curated and produced, and typically it's actually long form. So there's two types of premium OTT even. You've got AVOD, advertising supported video on demand, and that's where you find you have your ads as pre-rolls, mid-rolls, and end rolls. You've then got SVOD, which is subscription video on demand, and that's where all the content sits behind the paywall and it's completely ad-free. And then we move on to premium web. And this is where Outstream plays a major role. It could be a native video that sits within an article. It could be a video within an existing ad format, better known as rich media. But this gives you a lot of scale across mobile web and desktop web. And you'll see here some very well-known brands, whether they're news brands or vertical niche brands, but all of their content is professionally produced, which is why we call it premium. Now, underneath that, you've then got platforms that aggregate the content, the inventory, I should say. So you've got premium OTT platforms that aggregate all of this inventory, and you've got premium web, whether they're ad networks or they're premium marketplaces, SSPs, and you usually access this inventory programmatically. And then finally, we have social. So the biggest social network for video is, of course, YouTube, followed by Facebook. You actually have a lot of younger audiences flocking to platforms like Instagram and TikTok. Typically or predominantly, the content is user-generated content, but now you've got content creator networks on YouTube, so that's professionally produced content just for YouTube. You've also got premium channels on YouTube, such as our very own CNA. And then, of course, you've got live streaming, which we're going to talk about in a second. So now I want to talk about some of the rising stars that you need to look out for from this very complex marketplace. The first are emerging creative formats from Instagram and TikTok. The second is live streaming on e-commerce and social platforms. And then the third is premium OTT. So let's get into it. So on the TikTok side, it's become very famous for its creativity. You get a single video, it's about a dance, it's about, a comedy sketch, it could be a quote, and then it quickly goes viral across the TikTok platform, where it uses shared hashtags even, shared subjects, and shared sounds. Very much at the heart of TikTok are the creators. And you'll see here the types of formats available is TikTok Live. You've got video posts that can last up to 3 minutes, but we very much recommend making it between 9 and 15 seconds to really drive growth. Then on the Instagram side, one big fact, 71% of the global audience for Instagram are under the age of 35. So that tells you there's a much younger audience. Typical formats, live videos, stories, which has exploded with popularity, IGTV videos, and on verified accounts, you can place up to 60 minutes for IGTV. But one big point that we want to point out is you should be running vertical videos. That's what we really recommend, with the topic at the center of that video. The next is live streaming. So back in 2020, when everything closed up shop, this shifted into a different gear. You had consumers directly interacting with influencers. People were attending virtual events, whether they're property events or whatever it may be. People were going to live gaming tournaments. People were discovering new products via live shopping platforms. So we ourselves saw a massive surge in this when we partnered with Lazada last year on all of their mega sales. And this is where the very best of two worlds came together, content and commerce. The other thing that we did is also, launch things like the Samsung S21. And this is a great example where we had 21 influencers on a live stream in March to launch the phone. And that was really fun. And that was a mix between macro, micro, and nano influencers. I think the biggest key to success when it comes to live streaming is make sure you have a really engaged community, make sure the product is relevant for the influencer you're choosing, and then that drives authenticity and the engagement. And we really see this working well for the mid to the lower end of the funnel. So finally, I'll take you through premium OTT. What's it all about? This is where it's consumers are completely in control. They can watch their long form premium content live on demand on any device they want, smart TV, mobile, in-app, maybe it's desktop. And the big thing about OTT or premium OTT, it's very much a lean back experience. People are really engaged, they're captivated in the content. And it's very much driven by passion points. It could be sport, like the Olympics coming up. It could be entertainment, their favorite drama, whatever it may be. The other key advantage is the targeting options. You've got first-party audience targeting, and that makes the inventory addressable, which is important. You've also got genre category targeting, but now you've also got content ratings targeting. So if you don't want to target that R18 piece of content, you don't have to. We can make that happen for you. So now if we move on, I just want to show you some of the ecosystem when it comes just to OTT, and actually it's very extensive here in the Asia Pacific region. Arguably, it's probably one of the richest areas or regions for OTT. First of all, you've got global content. So the likes, which everyone here is familiar with, Netflix, Disney+, they're producing international content, but now starting to invest heavily in local content. You have the regional players, obviously focusing on content right across the region here in Asia. And then you've got the local players, of which one of those is us, which is MeWatch. And MeWatch happens to be the #1 premium OTT platform for local content here in Singapore. So now I've shown you this. Now I want to focus on something else. We know that video is the way to go. But because of this ever-evolving evolution of platforms and formats, it actually presents a lot of challenges. And we're here today because we recognise the tensions marketers face. So I want to point out some of these tensions. The first, the ever-changing consumer behaviour and operating in silos. Audiences are constantly migrating between linear and non-linear TV and digital platforms. Our behaviour is very random in the way that we do that. Sometimes we watch TV, sometimes we watch mobile, sometimes it's live, and sometimes it's on demand. TV and digital are converging. But the other part to that is here in the market, marketers are actually still operating in silos. They're planning separately between TV and digital, or when they're doing their post-measurement, that's being done separately between TV and digital. So we really need to start thinking holistically versus in silos. The second challenge is building trust in your brand. And this is really the key foundation when you're driving conversions and sales and your brand building, key foundation. The problem we've got right now is that there are scammers and hackers on the internet. Consumers are actually becoming a lot more vigilant in terms of about the video content you're delivering to them. So it's more crucial than ever that you get this right in terms of building trust in the brand, because if you don't have trust in the brand, no one's going to buy your product. Now, the next challenge I think is a very popular one, cutting through the clutter and driving engagement. We know the video marketing world is getting noisier and noisier. Hundreds and thousands of videos are getting uploaded on a daily basis. So it is really hard not to get lost in the crowd. Add to that, we all scroll so much that our attention spans are now 8 seconds, famously below a goldfish at 9 seconds. So it's so important that you grab that attention. One of the important things is to be consistent across all the platforms that you're using and make sure it's well orchestrated. You're optimizing that creative across all the platforms. The next is another big one, inconsistent measurement, lack of standardization. So many different formats, so many different platforms, TV, smart TV, mobile in-app, mobile web, the list goes on. You know, and the problem is advertisers are really struggling to calculate ROI. In addition to that, all of these different platforms sometimes tend to have their own benchmarks and their own way of measuring success. Now, the last one's a good one, quality versus quantity. And actually, quality can mean many different things. Quality can mean that are people actually seeing your ad? It can mean, are you targeting the right person in the right environment and driving the brand metrics that you need? It can also mean, is that reach you're getting, is it quality reach? Is it effective? Is it driving the business outcomes you need? Or is that reach ineffective and you're actually saturating the platforms? So these very big challenges, I'm going to invite Roy to come on and address some of these. Before we do, I now want the audience to participate. We want to hear from you what your challenges are when you're building a video marketing strategy. So we're going to run a quick poll. You've got multiple choices, choose as many as you want. Ever-changing consumer behaviours operating in silos, building trust in my brand, cutting through the clutter, driving engagement, inconsistent measurement, lack of standardization, quality versus quantity of video, or all of the above. So please go ahead and take a couple of seconds to do the quick poll. Okay, guys, we're about to close the poll. and the results will be with us shortly. Okay, 45% said cutting through the clutter and driving engagement. 42% said all of the above, and actually I'm not surprised by that. 26% quality versus quantity, 21% inconsistent measurement, lack of standardization, and ever-changing consumer behaviors operating in silos, and then 17% building trust in my brand. Very interesting. And I don't think any of this is a surprise. So I'm going to hand this over to Roy to go ahead and address some of these issues. Over to you.
So this is the perfect segue to the section that I'm going to take you through. Is at Group M, we invest an extraordinary amount of money on behalf of clients on video. More than 80% of all our money goes into videos of some form or the other. But we all know that all video is not equal. Within this extraordinary diversity of formats, options, mediums, channels, distribution mechanisms, subscription and ad-funded mechanisms, you start to wonder, how do you even start thinking about how to make sense of all of this? So we've looked at some proprietary research and come up with a proprietary framework. What I'm going to present to you is some of the leading thinking across the world through different research entities, through different consulting and advising entities on this topic. So here is a framework for driving video quality. Okay, the first thing that you've got to think about is the quality of content. If you get your quality right, okay, you think about whether it's viewable at all. If you get viewability right, you've got to think about whether it has the chance to grab attention. And if you get attention right, then you have to think about whether that ad has a chance to resonate with consumers. If you get these things right, then obviously it starts to drive greater effectiveness. And eventually, we are boiling this down to a very simple concept. And the concept is your message framed in a way where it has quality? And is the context or the environment in which this message is appearing, does it have quality? So essentially, it boils down to the quality that we have at each stage, because that is what will generate impact. Now let's start with the quality of content. There are three factors which drive quality of content. So video is stronger than non-video, longer videos are stronger, and short form videos also have a particular role to play, but we got to be careful in how we use it. If you talk about video versus non-video, next slide, you will find that there is a lot of proof in the world. If you look at brand lift studies, you'll find that the index of the average uplift of video is higher than non-video assets across most key brand parameters. So whenever you do a brand lift, you typically measure unaided awareness, message association, brand favorability, and purchase intent. And you see how the distance between video and non-video impact improves or increases as you go into more meaningful and more difficult metrics. Okay. And this advantage is continuously growing. So when we look at a media analysis of 150 odd cross-media campaigns, this was done in Australia, and we've just finished doing it across Asia as well. What we've seen is that the impact of video is getting more and more, it's increasing its distance versus online display. So even within digital, if you were to choose between video and display, okay, the distances started to increase. So here you see that video is performing better in saliency, it's performing much better on motivation, whereas online displays, the effect is decreasing in terms of its ability to drive motivation. And the same thing with message association as well. Next slide. And not all video is equal, because there is there is a very clear proof now that longer content is more effective. In the video world, I mean, this is always a very tricky thing to balance because you have so many skippable formats that consumers don't have a chance to see more than 3 to 6 seconds. But it doesn't change the fact that when you have a longer video, the average number of seconds in view by creative length of people who have, viewed, that does go up. And when people do view the ad, they create or they get or drive a higher brand lift for the brand. So if you look at samples or audiences who viewed the ads which were in the length of 21 to 30 seconds, the index of brand lift for them is 2.8, which is more than double of brands which were less than 10 seconds, where viewers consumed or viewed those ads sufficiently. Next slide. The other surprising thing and the new evidence is this. Longer videos are particularly important for lower funnel and emotional response, because we often tend to think that long form video is best used to introduce a brand or to drive awareness. But the fact is that when you look at the meta-analysis of several campaigns, and most of this work that I'm presenting to you is a meta-analysis, which means that we have digested huge amounts of campaigns and videos, and we're presenting the summary results to you. So when you look at the meta-analysis, you'll find that long form videos tend to start driving higher and higher or consistent advantages, not just at the initial level of unaided brand awareness, but also all the way down to purchase intent. Next slide. But short form videos still have a role, and the role that they have is that there is still a role that short form has to play in terms of introducing a brand, where it's a simple narrative, it makes a point, where there is serialized storytelling, which means that there is a main ad, and then there are different versions of the ads which are playing out. And a lot of native digital companies, who begin advertising only with digital forms, sort of play this game really well. They understand what is the way to play it. Also, when you leverage existing brand associations, you can get away with a shorter format because the brand is already pretty well established. So we're not saying that short form doesn't have a role. Short form does have a role, but you have to be very careful and considered in how you use it. Next slide. Okay, now this brings us to the point on viewability. I know quite a few of you are asking for examples of the formats, but I think for a moment, just bear with me as I take you through the theory of how this works, and by the end of it, you'll understand where I'm going. So just get the building blocks, and it will make it easier. So if you look at viewability is an incredibly important thing. So viewability means that if the ad is shown in an environment, the consumer or the viewer is getting a chance to view the full ad. Often the ad plays on a page which is below the fold, which means half of the ad is seen, or the ad is not seen at all. It is playing on the page, but the viewer is not seeing it. They're seeing articles and they're seeing other things. So investing behind viewability services is very important, because the most efficient platform which gives you great viewability can be over 100 times more efficient in delivering completed views than the least efficient one, which is, and if you see some of the feedback that we were getting from our clients, they're clearly giving evidence that viewable ads increase sales. And by leveraging companies like Moat, IAS, Double Verify, etc., who provide these services, you make smarter decisions and give your campaigns more chance to succeed. Next slide. So we've covered two concepts, right? We covered quality of content. We've covered how to make sure that your ads are viewable. And this brings you to the question that even if they are viewable, do they have the ability to garner attention. And here we have a very simple concept. The concept is that if your ad is playing in an environment, okay, which lives up to three factors, then you will drive attention. And the three factors are, number one, screen coverage, which means the proportion of the screen that the ad covers determines, okay, how much attention will be there. So if you just see inside this, okay, you get a sense of that, and I'll cover that in detail. The second factor is ad clutter. So if your ad is playing out in an environment which has a lot of clutter, okay, the chances of getting attention is very low. So you can get low cost per thousand, cost per million, CPMs, okay, and think that you have a very efficient buy and a very efficient placement. But the fact is, because you're measuring it on the wrong metric, okay, you will not know that that ad has failed on the true metrics, which are attention and motivation, right? And the third factor is gaze patterns, which is how do consumers' eyes navigate the screen? And we'll share some more on that. So let's get to screen coverage, okay? So when you're placing ads, we always advise that you go for environments, okay, spend a little bit more money and go for environments which have more screen coverage, because there is a direct correlation between coverage of the screen and attention. So you see that small number, R square, which is the correlation coefficient of 98%. That means it's nearly a linear relationship. So higher the size of the screen the ad covers, the more the attention that you get. And the second piece of evidence that we have is when that happens, it has a direct correlation on sales, okay, which is the short-term advertising effect on sales. Again, an R square of 92% or 0.92, which means it's a linear relationship. So the more the ad covers on the screen, the higher the impact on sales. Okay. The second factor is ad clutter. So you can equate for this, right? On your left-hand side, you're seeing a screen where your ad almost covers a whole screen, okay? Or at least a dominant portion of the screen. What you're seeing as the color patterns there are eye tracking studies and eye tracking patterns. So you can see that the eye is going to the different parts of the ad itself. The ad is the one which is shown in the gray lines. So the darker red portions means that is high attention, and the lesser colors are low attention. On the other hand, if you look at your right-hand side, which has a screen with multiple ads, okay, you have a top banner ad, you have another ad in the corner on the right-hand side, and on the left-hand bottom, you have another ad which is only partially viewable. Okay, what we are seeing is you get almost 37% lesser time spent on the ad, and also 31% number of ads seen. So people just don't absorb when there is so much information on the screen. Next slide. The other interesting factor is that premium contexts. So when you look at, let's say an OTT platform which has an ad playing or a normal television, okay, they tend to have lower ad clutter on the same screen. Okay, they might have a lot of clutter in the same break, like TV does, not so much OTT. But within the same screen, there is low ad clutter compared to, say, some news websites. You should especially go and look at, some of the British tabloid news websites. You will understand what clutter means. On the same page, you can have 20 different ads. So even if you got low CPM, it doesn't mean anything because it wouldn't lead to much. So the attention ability for normal content versus premium content, there is almost a 25% difference. But I would believe that the actual impact is greater than the 25% which comes out in research. Next slide. And then finally, it's gaze patterns. So what we mean by this is, and the principle is this: the more embedded the advertising is within the content, the greater the attention grabbing ability. So ads which are in line with content, basically what we are saying is that ads which are in line with the page's content, they will generate almost twice as much as attention as ads that sit on the side of content, which is why in-stream typically is much more effective than outstream. So in-stream advertising develops stronger brand lifts across all parameters, whether you look at unaided brand awareness, association, favorability, or purchase intention, they have a higher index almost all counts. Next slide. Finally, the less distracted people are, the greater attention. And this should be intuitive to everybody. But what is not intuitive is the role that content plays. Okay. If you have a website, which is a task-oriented website, let me give you an example. Suppose you went to a travel website where you have to, choose a date, choose an airline, choose a hotel. Okay. It's a task-oriented website. If an ad appears on a website like that, its chances of generating attention are not very high because the consumer is leaning in. So just to explain in-stream and outstream from the previous slide, in-stream is when a video is playing and it breaks in the middle, okay, an ad plays out and it is either skippable or non-skippable, okay, and then when the ad finishes, the content resumes again. Outstream is when it is the ad experience is adjacent to the main context. So the video is playing here and you'll have a side banner in which the ad is playing. So basically it's outside of your context within spaces which are created by the publisher to play an ad using a video player. So on the task bit, so if it is a task-oriented website, people don't get that much chance to pay attention because they're busy doing something else. If it is a normal content-oriented website, it is better than a task-oriented website. But a premium content website, whether it is a premium news website, a premium video content website, a sports website, anything which classifies as premium content, which is not a user-generated or a low-end publishing effort, they will always generate more attention. But more importantly, a lean back state drives stronger attention than lean forward. And this is really interesting because many of us misinterpreted how the brain works in lean forward states when you're doing a task versus lean back states when you're relaxed and absorbing content. We now have a lot of proof that lean back modes actually create more attention than lean forward. So there is a role for passive content absorption, provided that content is premium content, to drive attention. Next slide. Then we come to a concept called resonance, which means you've got the quality right, you've got viewability, you've garnered attention, but is it resonating? Are there some rules to drive how the things resonate with consumers? So I'm going to present some really interesting brain studies. Next slide. Brain studies to you, okay, which have been used to understand this. So you can understand these things through only fairly complex, complex science. So you use brand lift studies to understand the end impact on the brand. You need steady state topography of the brain to record electrical activity in the brain when you're consuming ads. We've looked at electrical activity of the skeletal muscles and even recorded sweat levels to actually get some of the findings out on these. Next slide. So what you will find is a couple of very simple and easy to remember rules coming out. A premium context almost always halos onto the brand. So even after you have taken care of viewability, so assume that there is no difference in viewability between different platforms and channels, a premium context will drive 51% stronger brand impact, which means if you're in an OTT platform which is playing a really high quality content, or you're on a sports channel watching really engaging, sport, that environment, when you play an ad inside it, is 51% more effective in driving brand impact. Okay. And this premium halo, when you break it down, into the kind of marketing, mind measure parameters which affect upper funnel, mid funnel, and lower funnel, we are saying a lot of that impact is actually on the mid funnel, and the mid funnel impact is much stronger. So things like favorability, consideration, intent to recommend, where the left part of the brain is processing a bit more, that goes up when the attention potential of the medium is higher. Next slide. And here is the, I think that perhaps the simplest, presentation of what happens to the brain when it is in a premium environment, looking at long form content. So what happens really is that the left brain memory encoding of words and details goes up. So therefore, there is a 21%. Incident is 21% stronger on premium context sites than during general free browsing, and it's 42% stronger on premium context sites than on social media. So it just gives you a sense of the different, the context in which the ad appears, the environment in which the ad appears is really, really important to tell you, how the brain processes that information. So if you look at the right-hand side, the right brain long-term memory encoding of emotional features and the larger features about the brand, the difference is not that much, but there is still an advantage of around 13%. But it's far lesser than the 21 and the 42% that you're seeing. So that gives you a sense of why the mid-funnel characteristics are driven much stronger, because it has to do with left brain processing. So I've sort of tried to give you some of the best rules which exist in advertising. And lastly, knowing that I've given you a lot to chew upon, I just wanted to say that more relaxed mood states allow advertising to resonate more. Please move forward. And this fluid state basically means that the ability, it allows a stronger emotional response from advertising than this planning state of other platforms. And therefore, the gap between a lean back versus a lean forward platform becomes pretty huge. I'll actually hand over from here to Gavin, who's going to take you through, next slide, please, who's going to take you through some of the other research, which is more pertinent to the Asian consumer that their company has come out with, so that you can process and relate this to real life much more than the more theoretical aspect that I've given to you. Over to you, Gavin.
Before we jump into Gavin, I do want to address some of the questions that have been asked, actually, Roy, because I think you've actually answered quite a few of them with some of the research that you've presented already. One of the questions is, with our attention so short, why would longer videos work? So certainly it's that lean back versus lean forward, of course, that Roy has just taken us through. It's the high viewability, it's the resonance. But Roy, would you like to expand on that?
Yeah, so look, lean forward is anything where you are doing an active task on your screen. So imagine you're on a laptop, okay, you are intently searching for something, okay, and something shows up, okay. Now look, there are different conditions. If you're searching for, let's say, you have a hair fall issue, and you went into Google and you typed the solution for hair fall, and you go to a website and a very relevant product comes up right next to you for something that we call the zero moment of truth. So that kind of a situation, there is high resonance connection and action. But imagine that you're in a space where you're doing various things, okay, and there is a lot of advertising happening around you on that page, which isn't necessarily connected to what you're doing. Okay, the chances that you will see those ads and connect with those ads is not going to be very high. The attention driving ability is lesser. I wouldn't say that it doesn't grab attention, is lesser than when it is presented in a more attention grabbing facility. Now let's flip it. Suppose you're in an OTT platform. I can give you my example. I watch a lot of cricket. I'm an Indian, and the Indian Premier League is on right now. I use the Hotstar OTT platform, and the advertising that I see inside that platform. Okay, whilst I'm in a fairly engaged, but I'm leaning back. I'm not doing a task. My brain is not working to search for something, to read something. I'm leaning back, I'm watching and consuming very entertaining stuff. The ad which plays inside that is in a lean back environment. I hope that explains. And there are many, many such things. Like you could be watching YouTube. It may be a user-generated content, but the in-stream ad which appears while that content is playing is also a lean back experience. I hope
Great.
that helped you.
Thank you. One more question before we move on. There's another question on the recommended duration for a short form video versus a long form video. Long form, I think the sweet spot's between 21 seconds and 30 seconds or thereabouts, if I'm not mistaken, Roy. Short form, I would say between 6 seconds and 10 seconds. Roy, your thoughts on that?
No, I think you're right. So,
Yeah.
so again, I mean, the thing to think about, so long form, I think, depending upon the category again, we are finding that the sweet spot tends to be in the 21, 22 seconds. But again, different categories, different parts of the world will. Asia, by and large, ex-China, the sweet spot is around 22 seconds for FMCG per our experience. And in short form, you're right, between 6 and 10 seconds is the sweet spot. The thing to remember over here is this. A lot of channels and platforms only allow you the potential for ads to play out not more than 6 seconds, because after that consumers are going to skip. So it is important to think about what do you do when different environments allow different lengths of ads to play out. And the reason for that is we've just finished doing a massive meta-analysis of 145,000 ad units, okay? What we are finding is that whilst people are getting really excited about short form and the trick about short form, and a lot of new native digital companies think they've mastered it, when you break down the brand lift study, you find that it is generating only brand awareness, a little bit of ad recall, and then all the other harder marketing mind measure metrics are failing. So persuasiveness, okay, intent to purchase, okay, even salience, a lot of critical mind measure parameters which are important for marketing are not getting driven by shorter length. So you have to mix the whole game in such a way that you can impact consumers from different angles with different lengths of the video. You can't tell a brand story in 6 seconds. It takes more than that. So you have to mix it up and play it.
Great. Thanks for that, Roy. Okay, Gavin, over to you to take us through this great research.
Great, thanks. I missed the hair fall ads, so they weren't targeted enough in my day, Roy. But no, great insights from Roy there. Next slide, please. Great to be here. Thanks for inviting us, and thanks everyone for tuning in. So we at Spodex, a video ad tech company, work with the majority of OTT platforms across the region. And in doing so, we really wanted to continue to best understand the OTT growth in Asia. We've done this in other regions around the world as well. But we commissioned a study to understand OTT consumption and receptiveness towards video ads, which touches on a lot of what we've looked at already today. Just a bit of background on the research. This was conducted by Milieu Insights, which is a mobile panel-based research company across the main markets in Southeast Asia, including Singapore, and then beyond into Australia and Japan. And over 7,000 interviews, 50 questions per participant. So a pretty in-depth study, and we're happy to share this today. Next slide, please. So in relation to the research, and syncing up before in this, we've broken it out to the main points that cover the value of video. In relation to the funnel, we're going to touch on the quality of content and then really dive into the quality of media and viewability, attention and resonance in relation to the panelists and their feedback that can drive greater effectiveness. And this is looking at video as a whole and then OTT specifically. Next slide. So the opening thing to look at here is Jenny mentioned kind of the growth of OTT in Asia. 100 plus OTT platforms. There's great diversity and scale, and that is all premium long form content. So I think we're one of the most exciting regions in the world. And when it comes to the accessing of that content, some people are obviously more familiar with the Netflix and Disney Plus, so they may think that SVOD dominates subscription non-ad environments. But actually, that's not the case. When we ask viewers, when it comes to video streaming, what would you most likely utilize to access the content? The three areas we looked at, one is a free service with ads, second was an ad-light service at a reduced cost, or third was subscription with no ads. 80% of people overall within the region were actually open to ads. So the value exchange of ads is very much understood and appreciated, and kind of consumers view as welcome having this premium content for free or a lower cost. And actually in the US, you may think it's all SVOD led, but really it's Netflix and Disney Plus are the dominant ones. Hulu in the US has an ad light model, and 70% of people just for $4 less opt for that. So ads are welcome in these environments, but it's definitely worth noting the next part of the research in that the question was asked is what's the length of ads per hour that you would accept? So normally free to air, which is dominant within Asia, so people are familiar with ads, has around 15 minutes per hour. It varies a bit per market. But with this, we're seeing that 70% of people are calling out that 1 to 5 minutes of ads per hour. So there's definitely a reduction in the amount of ads they're expecting. So that really puts the challenge on us as the ad ecosystem to make sure that we make this effective and meaningful with the time slot they're willing to open up to us. And that growth in AVOD is evident. So here we can see within the region, 69% of people are tuning into an OTT player each week, and that's up to 91% in Singapore. And on the right here is data from our SpotX in terms of working with a number of these OTT platforms. In the last year, we've seen 154% year-on-year increase in the amount of ad opportunities that are coming. So again, diversity and scale within AVOD is alive and well in Asia and only growing further. So that touches on the quality of content. We're going to dive into the quality of media now. So firstly, in looking at viewability, some great insights there about the coverage, less ad clutter, gaze. When it comes to OTT, it really ticks all those boxes. It's full screen video, no competing browsers, no scrolling in the browser, brand safe, premium environments, and the results kind of come through on this. The average viewability and average complete view rates are 85% plus in these environments. Most of the premium partners are actually 90% plus, like MeWatch. So it definitely ticks the box on viewability. Next slide, please. So we know the audiences are there. Who's actually viewing them? And obviously, we want to bring some perspective of the broader ecosystem as well. So this slide here, essentially asking Singapore audience with the age group that they're in, and those that are viewing OTT, video sharing platforms, or TV. So within this, some kind of key trends you can see. When it comes to TV, it's still a dominant area to go to, but it's maintaining older audiences now. A lot of the millennials are kind of utilizing these other platforms as well. On that social video in blue here has a bias to 18 to 34-year-olds, whether that's YouTube, TikTok, etc. We're seeing that growth. And OTT as a whole is actually growing across all areas. So I always call out the mum test on this. My mum's 80, living in London, and over the last year with obviously the pandemic, she's actually embraced OTT and in these environments. But we're seeing some spikes across all areas, but the kind of main bias is the 25 to 44-year-olds in this. Next slide, please. This slide. So what are people watching on? So we want to understand their attention. How are they embracing this audience? So we asked the question about devices. With this, whether it's mobile, smart TV, traditional TV, The dominant device within Asia, as you see here in orange, is the smartphone. People have lower data costs, better phones, access to all these OTT platforms on the go to watch what they want when they want, and that's playing through. So 70% across the region, Singapore at 53%. The high growth section on this is really smart TV. So at 18% already in Singapore and growing in other markets. And I bought a TV recently. It's near impossible to find an old school TV. Everything is digitally enabled TV, and there's some pretty good deals out there at the moment. So we see smart TV to be a very much a growing area, but for now mobile is dominating, which is different from other regions. In the US, the big screen that's digitally enabled in the living room is probably about 80% of the consumption. So Asia is definitely different, and it keeps it interesting and exciting. Next slide, please. One of the questions that does come up from brands is in relation to the viewing experience. They're kind of used to TV and kind of accept a lot of the metrics that Roy mentioned before, but what does that mean when it comes to mobile? So we asked this question directly: what's your viewing experience like in relation to traditional TV or being in a smartphone environment? And you can see here it's pretty much the same feedback on very good and good, pretty much matching. So from a consumer's perspective, being in either of these environments is much the same experience. From a perspective, if you're watching your mobile here or it's out on the big screen, it's taking up the kind of same gaze view that we touched on before. Next slide. In terms of where a viewer is watching, with it being mobile led, it kind of opens up more opportunities of where they might watch. So on the left here, again, looking at the three different platforms, we can see TV still dominates in the living room on the far left in a darker orange there. But OTT is also happening now. I know at my own home, people can be on their mobile in the living room rather than reaching for the remote. But they're also watching it around the home. So they're watching in their own bedrooms, in their own space, and watching the content they want to watch individually. Obviously then on the move, and we're seeing people commuting with it while staying at hotels, or the luxury of travel when it returns, and people also utilizing it there. Next slide, please. In terms of, we touched on the quality of the content, we touched on the quality of the media. I think the sweet spot that we see with OTT is very much when it comes to the traditional TV world of quality long form content, high viewability, high impact, matched with digital and what we're used to with targeting, optimization, measurement, transparency, efficiency. OTT really kind of meets in the middle there. So it gives a great opportunity for brands to engage with these growing audience base. Next slide, please. So in looking at attention, we ask consumers, viewers directly, which of these platforms is more likely to catch your attention. And the data here, as we've seen kind of from the research from Roy, is video really stands out. And this is showing in Southeast Asia. The three standout areas are on the left, and they're all video. So social ads, OTT ads, and TV are all have greater attention than any of the other ad formats. An interesting area to call out on this is that social is leading at the moment. I think social has kind of had 10 years of data enablement, understanding, insights, and targeting. When it comes to OTT, it's kind of more recent, but we're seeing a lot of the OTT platforms really build out their first-party data at the moment. And we're going to see, I think, a lot more targeting at scale within these environments that should potentially lead OTT to be the standout attention grabbing format. Next slide, please. So we live in a skippable society. We make it easy for people to avoid content. I mean, there's some questions around length of content there. What the question really, I think, is for the consumer is why would they watch? What's going to keep their attention? Why won't they skip an ad? And why could you have a 21-second ad? And the answers here, for one, it's an interesting story. Two, it's funny. And three, it's feel good, positive, great music. Interestingly here, that they from a brand that they buy from, they like, and also where possible to make it interactive. So some direct feedback here as to how you can get people to watch for longer. Next slide. And then we touched on asking them directly what do they feel makes a video advert effective. So with this, creativity is number one on this, and they want you to engage with them in a creative way, which I think back to that targeting, to be creative and to be able to appeal is really understanding the audience, targeting them well. Product is relevant to me, there's a good storyline, emotional impact, music comes up again, good to have a good soundtrack. Ad is relevant to the content, so again, getting it resonating with the environment that you're in, and ad is interactive. So some great insights here as to how you can resonate, how you can enable people or want people to watch your ad for longer, up to 21 seconds or more. Next slide. In looking at the full funnel from branding to outcomes, some of the questions also asked around the outcome side of things, how does video drive performance? So we asked the viewers what are the actions that they're taking after watching a video. And this isn't like on every video, it's like generally what are the actions that have taken place. And you can see here searching for the product online is like the biggest driver of what happens post seeing an ad. Actual purchase behavior came up high here. So it kind of comes back to that video being a driver of purchase. Clicking on the video, there's a few different states of when they're clicking on, with the pausing and clicking, waiting till the end of the video, or engaging in the ad itself. And sharing becomes a big part of this as well. So it definitely drives outcomes across the whole funnel. And from that interactive, we thought it was worth touching on this as well, that in both the attention and the skipping side of things, it called out interactivity with the ad. And when it comes to digital environments, and specifically in mobile in Asia, that creates an opportunity to get really creative with what you can do within these environments beyond just being a TVC. So we conducted some additional research of looking at interactive ads versus standard ads. And this can just be a branded border, a call to action. Keeping it kind of base level interactive, it can also get a lot more interesting. But we saw here there's also uplift in 29% the likelihood to visit a brand's website, 17% in terms of clicking on that ad by making it more engaging, 13% in the likelihood to describe that ad as engaging, and 8% in actually liking the ad. Add to that, the potential to click through, which we've seen people are open to in these environments, and we can see that interactivity, embracing the environment the viewers in is definitely something that can be looked at. So I will finish up here and we can dive into some of the questions. As we saw on this, in looking at the funnel again, the quality of content is key within this. There is premium long-form content at scale in Asia. Ads are welcomed as a value exchange. People are open to ads, but we need to make sure that we have less ads and we make them therefore impactful and effective. On the quality of media is premium, it's high viewability, high complete view rates. On attention, we've seen the kind of across platforms where videos resonating. For OTT, it is growing across all areas, but within 18 to 44. More specifically, mobile first in these markets, smart TV is growing. Mobile experiences equal that of TV, and OTT ads are driving attention on making that resonate, interesting, funny, feel good, in being effective, creative, relevant, a good story. And we are seeing the results from the full funnel of branding into outcomes, which overall can drive greater effectiveness for you. So we're happy to share the highlights here, and we can dive into a number of questions I've seen coming up here as well.
Thank you, Gavin. I think at this point we've got a great question actually, which is about cost, and I think let's talk about that. The question is, let's balance between good quality video and the cost of production. Just because it's going on a digital platform, whether that be YouTube, IG, Facebook, whatever, there seems to be this perception that production shouldn't cost be as high as, say, a regular video or commercial. What is our opinion on that? One thing I would say is that explosion of video costs have come down, but it's not necessary every single time to produce a Hollywood level quality video. But that said, I think it actually really depends on what you're trying to achieve across platforms, and stop looking at things in silos. So if you're trying to go the upper funnel, then my own assumption would be you would need to spend more to deliver that brand message, and that would go across every single platform. You know, but if it's obviously you're driving sustenance, or you're working with influencers, and you're going maybe towards the engagement or the lower end of the funnel, and you're driving conversions, then I don't think the investment needs to be as high. But Roy, what are your thoughts about that?
I think so from a pure economics point of view, and I guess, I mean, this economics becomes very sharp when you look at a global or regional brand instead of, say, a Singapore only brand. When you look at a global or regional brand, the cost of production of an ad is tiny, tiny, tiny compared to the total money that you spend on media, right? So my first guidance would be that your asset should be as high a quality as your budget allows you to go. Okay, you shouldn't scrimp on that at all. If you take more limited geographies and smaller markets, the principle still remains the same. Okay, however, your point is right. If your budget is $1 million and it will take $500,000 to produce an ad, okay, there is an imbalance between the two. So the way to balance that is that you've got to be even more smart about how you arrange the experience of the brand. So the design of the master brand communication needs to be done once, it needs to be done well with high production qualities, and then everything should spin off from that, okay, so that there are economies of scale that you get from that. What I notice is that the attraction to think about every campaign and renew it and issue a new creative brief and call in a separate production is so high that many times the marketing or the brand manager does not sit back to think that there are obvious efficiencies of scale and a design of effectiveness which can be created, which we call the cost lesser. So no, cost of production should not go down. That's the most important thing. The attribution of the message is above 50%. The attribution of placement is around 20-25%. So half of it comes from the quality of the ad.
Yep, definitely. I think that's about all the time we've got today. We have had more questions that we will take offline and we'll answer for you because we know you're all very busy. We want to thank you for the time that you spent with us today, and I hope that you've got a lot of takeaways from today. And of course, this presentation will be available up on our website for Executive Insights soon. But in the meantime, please stay safe, everybody. And we look forward to seeing you at the next session of Executive Insights. Thank you.
Super.
Thank you.
Bye,
Roy, thank you, Gavin.